Dear City of Bradford Metropolitan District Council and Leeds City Council, I'm writing to inform you about my experience riding my bicycle this afternoon from Bowling to Leeds Trinity University College in Horsforth, then back home to Oakenshaw. This is the route I took. As you can see, I plan my routes conservatively, staying off busy main roads where it's practical to do so. Unfortunately, my basic safety was still threatened multiple times on this round trip of approximately 20 miles. There are also many areas where the infrastructure could use improvement. The first notable incident on my journey occurred rather ironically on Dick Lane approaching Thornbury roundabout about here. Bradford, as you can see, you've provided a facility that cyclists may use. Unfortunately, it seems to be used the majority of the time as a car parking facility instead, and this occasion was no exception. While passing these parked cars, a black Porsche approached from behind, and the driver sounded the horn, then overtook me aggressively as soon as they saw a space to squeeze through. They then, rather hilariously, got held up at these traffic lights by the Travelodge about 50 yards ahead. I'd almost caught up to them by the time they turned green, then they jumped the light at the entrance to Thornbury roundabout 2 seconds after it turned red. They really didn't want me to catch up and prove to them that bicycles don't hold up traffic. This may have been a driver with a bully must get in front of the cyclist mentality that is far too common on our public roads, but my main point here is that advisory cycle lanes are often useless and help nobody. They are not an adequate cycle facility in the majority of cases. I've written to you, Bradford Council, time and time again about problems with parking in advisory cycle lanes, but have never even received a response from you. That is an awful level of service. Mandatory cycle lanes are available, and please use them where appropriate. This rather nicely brings me up to my next inquiry. Bradford and Leeds, why is the A647 the only route to cycle between your cities? Is this safe? Would you let your children cycle on this? As soon as you reach the boundary and enter the Leeds Council area, the cycle lane runs out. Not only is this a 3-lane nightmare, but the left-hand lane at each roundabout becomes a left-turn lane. So at some point, bicycles have to somehow manoeuvre across the large traffic volumes using this road to be able to proceed. Consider upgrading one of these bridleways as an alternative safe route. I'd recommend the Tysell Road bridleway since it's slightly less steep. Leeds Council, this is your territory. At the moment, the service is very difficult for bicycles on these bridleways. The inclines are steep, but with a decent surface, they would be manageable. Put some tarmac on it. But the simple fact that West Yorkshire's 2 largest cities do not even have plans to develop a safe cycle route between them is ridiculous. Leeds, my next item of concern is Oaklands Road in Rodley. Here is how it's presented on your cycle map. That green traffic-free line looks inviting, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I have to report that this track is in awful condition. Again, just stick some tarmac on it please so bicycles can actually use it comfortably. Bradford, stop relaxing because you are out of the woods yet and I'll be back to you in a couple of minutes. The next thing is the access to Calverley Lane from the canal towpath. It's overgrown and needs work to be suitable for riding on. Join these things up, Leeds. Don't just leave it in a state and expect cyclists to dismount. The Bar Lane bridleway has so much potential for providing a traffic-free section towards Horsforth. The alternative is the busy ring road, but again the surface is in a really awful condition for cycling. At the top there's actually a sign indicating it's a cycle route, but not in this state it isn't. Unfortunately, I had to experience another truly awful piece of driving on West End Lane. While passing parked cars, a driver decided to pass me with about 6 inches to spare. What's worse is that had they waited for about 3 seconds until I'd passed the parked cars, then they could have easily passed me safely. Councils will need to educate drivers to have some degree of patience, so vulnerable road users are not endangered. But then, on the way back on Bridge Road, a car turned out of Bridge View right in front of me, causing me to slow to a halt. It's worth mentioning that I did have lights on, and there is no doubt the driver would have seen me. Just another driver who doesn't care a single jot about the safety of vulnerable road users. Now, Bradford, we have a serious problem. Bailey Lane is part of National Cycle Route 66. Some traffic calming measures have been implemented on this road. Unfortunately, it's not nearly enough. We have the same problem we had before. A lack of parking restrictions means cars quite happily block these cycle facilities. And I also had a very scary incident at one of these priority points on today's journey. Travelling downhill, I approached a section where traffic approaching from the other direction had to give way to me. However, an approaching van bullied their way through and caused me to skid here while braking to avoid them. Not only that, but a car then decided to follow the van, and despite me raising my hand to indicate that they needed to wait and my obvious distress, they still decided to carry on through. Again, these facilities are not adequate to protect vulnerable road users. I feel this road is not suitable to be on the National Cycle Network, and I will be writing to Sustrans informing them that they should consider extinguishing Bytley Lane from Route 66. This would leave a gap in the route, but I think that's better than fooling potential inexperienced cyclists into thinking that this road is safe. Now, the curb at the bottom of this bridleway section of Route 66 has no dropped section for bicycles at the bottom. Someone has thoughtfully left a loose slab here, which serves as some kind of step, but not having a drop curb here is really poor. Yes, Bradford, I've written to you about this, and no, you haven't responded. This is just one round-trip journey on a bicycle, councils. We need to improve the infrastructure and improve the behaviour of all road users. Cycling as a mode of transport is limited to the confident at the moment. With the soaring cost of motoring, there is an unprecedented opportunity for a modal shift to cycling, which would slash congestion and improve our living environment. But councils, you need to do a lot better.